Hey friends, been a minute since I made a video, but every day I have this pressing kind of thought in my mind, like, hey, I should do this, and there's something that's been brewing in my heart, and seems like every time I open the Bible, every time I listen to somebody preaching, I keep running into the parable of the sower and the seed, and how Jesus uses the parable of the seed as a kingdom principle and how it applies to our everyday life just all the time. He has several different stories where he talks about the kingdom of God is like unto a sower, like unto basically a farmer that goes out and plants a seed in the field, you know, and he waters it and he pulls the weeds and he waits for the harvest. But first he puts it in good ground. And anyway, I was driving between jobs today, and I felt like I heard God just really start speaking to me about what that means in my own life and how that applies, and how everything that we do in life is like that. I think the reason that he uses the seed is because almost everything that you do in everyday life, it's like a farmer planting a seed. You're either planting that seed, you're doing something to establish and build on, make something and build upon it. You're watering something that you have already begun to build, whether it's physical, emotional, a business, whatever it is, we're putting effort into it. Or we are harvesting. We are going and getting and benefiting from the time and effort that we put into all these things. And I think one of the things that's really been becoming so aware of is when you realize that the responsibility, and this is not a negative at all, but there's a responsibility that comes with knowing that my actions have consequences, and maybe consequences isn't the right word. My actions bring results. I want to make this about something positive in your life. Listen, you're in control of your own destiny. Man, you're not going to wake up tomorrow and things are going to be different. Okay, I just say that so that you can start to realize the time and effort that you put into your life, and the things that coming out of your mouth, the music going into your ears, what you're reading, what you're seeing on TV, those things are impacting. Man, they're planting, they're watering, or you're harvesting something that you planted and then watered. And if you want a good tomorrow and you want to be successful and you want joy in your life, then man, you got to plant a seed and you got to take care of it. You got to yank the weeds out, because I guarantee you they're going to come. Man, that's what this hardest thing is about in life right now for me, is to stay balanced and focused and not get caught up in all this stuff that's going on, man. My car broke down last week, and it's been amazing. I'm able to buy almost a new truck, first one in 6 years, but there's a responsibility that comes with that, and I can use that in a positive way to harness and drive my energy. But I drove, and this was a humbling experience, man. I drove a minivan for the last year and a half, and a car someone gave me for the last 3 years before that, and a hunk of junk the 3 years before that. So I, especially in the past year, I've had to be patient. I've had to put in the time and not be embarrassed to get out of that, take that car anywhere I want it. I'd go to the gym, go to church, a date, whatever, man. I'm driving a minivan. I'm telling you, it was a humbling experience, but I just look at the progression of what I had to do and how I said, God, I'm thankful for what I have today, and I that seed that was in me that said it's going to grow, that I'm saving up money, I'm building a root system where I know I'm stable enough to now that I can support myself and afford this truck. It took time and effort, man, and there's always a good excuse to stop doing it. I could tell you guys so many stories of so many different situations that come up in my life, and I have two roads in front of me, and I have been through hell, and I know right where that road splits off, and this one's going here and the other one's going there, and I know which decision's going to take me somewhere. But because when you plant a seed, nothing happens right away. If you don't understand the process, if you don't realize that seed cannot be dug up every day, you gotta water it and jerk the weeds. You gotta take care of it, and when nothing's happening, you gotta believe that thing's still growing, and it's gonna grow because it is a law that God placed here. The Bible calls it an incorruptible seed, which means it is guaranteed to work. If you plant a seed, it does not matter if you've never looked at it again. You're not ever going to see it until it comes up out of the ground, and it will be weeks until it comes up out of the ground. If you just trust the process and understand that it's going to work, but there's a process. You cannot cram for a harvest. You cannot shortcut the process of growing a crop. There's a story about a guy that was doing missionary work, and he didn't have time to plant his farm. He was a farmer. So he comes home in September from a missionary trip, and he says, you know what? God's been good to me, man. I'm going to plant this crop, and I'm going to harvest it. It doesn't matter. He prayed over that thing, and he planted the seed, and the snows came in November, and there was nothing to harvest, and it died. Now that kind of sounds a little harsh, a little crazy. The guy was doing the right thing. My point is, you can't cram for a harvest. You can't go home and sit on the couch and expect something good to happen and pray that God pulls the weeds for you, because it doesn't work that way. There's a process, guys, and the sooner you realize you're not going to wake up tomorrow and there's going to be a miracle on your doorstep. Now, it could happen, and God bless you if it does. I hope it does. There's good things and shortcuts that God gives us. But the process of life and what we want is planting and sowing and reaping. And there's a process in there. And it's exciting to realize that we are in control of this thing. God has gave everything in the palm of our hands, every place the sole of our foot walks. God said it's ours, and it's because we are man, we're human, and we are in control of our own destiny. The devil, and we want to look at the devil and what he's doing, but the reality of it is God's so much bigger, and he lives in us. And if we can speak to fear when we see and recognize it pop up its head in our life and say, fear, you're a liar. All that is trying to shortcut you from the process that you're on. You can walk through that. You've got something bigger inside of you than any kind of failure you've ever experienced. But you've got to believe it, step out, and believe that seed, that process is happening. So a little story real quick. This morning even I was, with everything that's happened the last week, my truck breaking down and really busy and a bunch of other stuff going on in my life. And I was on the way to work this morning, and I just felt the weight of the world coming down on my shoulders. We all hit those moments, man, where we just really feel like we're taking on too much. And my first reaction is pop in the earbuds, turn up some loud music, get to work, think about work, block it out, get through this day, maybe it'll get better tonight. And I felt like I heard God say, do you understand what fighting means? See, fighting, we can't fight life physically. People say take life by the horns. Well, the life I know don't have no horns. I don't know where to grab it, or kick it, or elbow it. Like if I could, I would. But the reality of it is life is not a physical. We don't handle it like that. We handle life's problems just like a farmer handles his crops. You pull the weeds today, and them crops don't look no different tomorrow. And that's how I felt this morning. Nothing I was going to do. I didn't want to listen to no preaching. I didn't want to listen to no Christian music. I was running late for work, frustrated, and I felt all those things I feel every day. Or I used to feel every day, I'm sorry. And I realized that if I don't do something different, that my outcome is not going to be different than my past experiences where I have went and it hasn't lasted long, and I've fell off the bandwagon and crashed and burned, and I can begin to see that why in the road, and this is where it's going. And if I turn my back, basically sit on the couch and pray for God to pull the weeds, guess what? It's just not my experience in life. So I said, all right. I kind of prayed through it, and I said, God, I don't have to see a difference today. I'm going to do what I know in my heart is the right thing to do. I'm going to thank you for what I have, for how far I've come. I'm going to put something good on, and I'm going to fill myself. I'm going to fertilize the ground in my heart. Remain thankful. Say, forgive me, God, for what I did and do, and the things that I said that I shouldn't have said. And I just say that to say that and just pulling the weeds, man. And between jobs today, when God started speaking to me about this, how this applies to my life, I was totally floored, man. Because I wasn't in no place to hear God's voice today. I didn't think I was. I wasn't in no super spiritual zone or anything like that. I was really, you know, it was a rough day. It was hot, 100 and some degrees and humidity, and I wasn't feeling it. And when God started speaking to me, He said, you planted the seed and you took care of it today. And when you take care of it, man, there's a harvest coming. There's something good coming to you. Believe it. Put in the time, man. Don't try to see something right away. I've still been really dedicated to the gym. You know, I'm hitting a plateau in my body where I'm not seeing much happening right now. But I speak it out. Every time I get out of that gym, I say, something's happening. My muscles are getting ready to get there. My body is being prepared to get to where I want to go. I don't see it right now, but it's coming. Because that's what I believe the parable of the sower is all about. It's about taking care of the ground that you got. The first process is getting your heart right. And I think that's a whole other subject. That's what the stony ground means when he talks about the sower planting in the stony ground and they didn't come up, or in the thorns came up and choked them out, or he planted it in the hard ground and it couldn't take root. Your heart's not right. Some of it he planted up in good ground and it grew like crazy, but the cares of the world came in and just overtook it. And you know, that's been my experience lately. And part of what I went through this morning is realizing there's so much going on in my life. There's so much happening. How can I keep this vision? How can I stay on the right track? How can my heart stay in this constant place of thankfulness that I know I'm going the direction that God is calling me to? It's so easy to get distracted, and a lot of times I feel like I'm distracted long before I really am. It's that lie, again, that fear is coming in, man. And I just hear that fear and I just say, fear, you're a liar. That's not the reality of my life. So guys, be patient, man. If your heart is right, and if you planted that seed, and if every day you're doing something to water it, you're gonna see a harvest. It may not be today or tomorrow, but if you take care of it, God will bring it to you quicker than any kind of natural thing you could ever do in this world. And I promise you that there is a sowing and a reaping thing. There is a principle that applies when you apply godly principles in your life. I promise you, it'll come quicker than any kind of natural principles you'll ever apply. God bless you guys, man. Never give up. Don't forget what it looks like to fight. That life doesn't have horns. Life's beautiful, guys. And just enjoy the journey, man. Happiness is not a destination, it's a journey.